Hello. How are things? Ooh. Mm, hmm. Why are you checking for null here? Oh, because we set it to null. That's why I was not reading this code. I was just reading this. Well, this is not even what I'm working on. It's just I saw that. Where's the thing where we get the projector? The hell is this? Why is this in Oh, I see. Okay, so we just do this. This is all I was looking for. Okay. So, okay. So, we want to get distance from point to whatevs. Any chance we get another weekend project? Not anytime soon because I'm very busy on something for the next couple of months. We might do one eventually. Eventually. Okay, so so let's just say So here we have various cases that we don't care about. So basically, this function is this is the main case, and we're just saying the distance from a ray to a point, which is the center of the sphere, is, well, the dot product gives you one side of a triangle, and then it's a right triangle, and then the other side is what you want to solve for, right? Let's just explain that in a comment, even though it's kind of obvious. Get the distance to the teleporter by to the teleporter. The dot product gives you the distance of the long side of a right triangle. Length V gives you the hypotenuse, and so forth. I wish I was high on hypotenuse. All right. Minus dot times dot, and then we don't worry about prioritizing things in front because this is just for fast travel where things are laid out in a plane that you're probably looking cleanly down on. Okay. Down upon. Distance squared is less than best dist squared. Best dist squared equals dist. This is like such a common pattern. This thing right here. These are the actual fucking design patterns. Throw away the design patterns book. This is a design pattern, is loop over the things and find the best one. Right? Oh my God. All right. Best T teleporter equals T. Return best teleporter. Okay. Best teleporter. So guys, I was watching the end of the tower stream last night. That's a reduce. Not really. So I was watching tower stream last night after they had sort of did their game with all this AI generated code. And they said at the end of it that they had generated 67,000 lines of code. Now, here's the thing. I know this because I ported this game, Original Doom, that had to write its own whole 3D renderer and invent how to do that, and was the biggest game in the world for years with tons of levels and all this stuff. It was 55,000 lines of code. So now it is a famously compact program and all that, but still, I'm just saying maybe the tower code is not the highest quality code. I mean, this game is like 300,000, right? Well, it depends what you count. I don't know what I assume they were counting blank lines and comments. I don't know. So they have 20% of the amount of code for this game. So you don't ever need to find the actual distance, right? Because if everything's squared, it's fine. We should do this though. Should do that. All right, so that's fine. It's not called pause though. Boom. Sea of Thieves has 3 million lines of code. Yeah, I mean the problem is just what happens when you have a lot of programmers. Like certainly Sea of Thieves does not need to be 3 million lines of code, not remotely. I don't know how big it actually needs to be. It probably needs to be bigger than this game, right? So this game's 300 and it's pretty reasonable in code size. So maybe Sea of Thieves should be like, I don't know, let's say 800,000 lines. I don't even know. It probably doesn't need to be that big, but let's say. So there's still 4 times as much code as there needs to be, which means everything that you look at is trash in the code base, right? All right. So I think I want to take over left click. So the question now is when do we call this and what do we do and all this stuff? And yeah, I think I want to take over left click, but I don't remember where the left click handling is. So I know, for example, we take it over. Um, let's just look at the thing. So editor, editor dot, no, not variables. Oh, developer dot QMap. We put it all together. Manip ground paint. All right, so where is that? Manip ground paint. Manip ground paint. Manip mode equals dot ground paint. Okay. Well, maybe we'd make a manip mode instead of what we did. Toggle fast travel. Okay, we won't do this. Fast travel. Viz. Oh no. Actually we don't want a manip mode because uh the thing is when you release the key, we want you to go back to what you were doing. Let me just look at where the hook is for this. Manip mode. Okay. Right, so left pressed. Right, okay. If fast travel visibility mode, visibility, dude, I can't type it all right now. Then (2019) comment. All right. Yeah. Fast travel viz handle left click. All right. Okay. Fast travel viz choose teleporter. We are going to do editor get closest fast travel teleporter. And we're going to go editor report. This is like Cowabunga oriented programming. Boom. Nice. All right. All right. Hey. Okay, well, that's not right because we're always getting the same answer. But the code is hooked up end to end. Okay. So we'll do some logging. I don't know why we're subtracting the offset here. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense. Okay. Um, okay, this is the wrong. So we're so okay. Well, we don't have to debug anything. At least not yet. Why is startup taking so long, dude? All right. I mean, it is debug build, but still. Still. Hey. That's great. I mean, we don't know for sure these are the right ones, but they probably are. All right. So, okay. So, we're just going to go. Okay, so we're just going to assign the group. Find type group ID. Okay. So otherwise, so we have this visible in editor. Wait, what is it called? Show in editor. Now we're going to want to do something more complicated than just toggle that one group, because the whole point of this is there's like interrelated groups and we want to make it very easy to manipulate them together. However, it's one step at a time. I don't even think if we set this, it'll do anything. So G dot in editor, not g.show in editor. Okay. Um, okay. I always get the argument order wrong because I have two functions with tprint. Oh. Oh. I put the T in the wrong place. I did not put the lotion in the basket. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's fine. So I can toggle these. Now, it is not, in fact, hiding them actually, but that's the next step. Okay, so um okay, does anyone look at this variable at all right now? Change existence group status show in editor. Yes. Okay. All right, so let's try this. I don't know. What technique, DB, did you use to store the game state after each user's logout? Ty, sir. Um, it is called saving a file. You put the lotion in the basket and then you save the file. Okay. So this probably doesn't like, I didn't look at the code, but it probably doesn't like that we're calling it from the editor. Oh, no, it just wants us, it wants us to be very explicit about this. All right. So let's do that. I mean, if you don't know how to write data to a file, then take some programming classes or something. It's like one of the first things that programmers learn. All right. Hey. It's not literally working on everything in the group for some reason. Like, not the gameplay entities. But it is working on the inanimates. Right? So I could do this. So I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's because we have separate visibility code. For the editor that does not check this. That's all that I am thinking. Okay. So this does work if I manually toggle it as well. Okay, does it work? No. So we also need to do the part that turns off the linked group with all the oh, or maybe it's just that the particles are not turning off. Let's test. Oops. All right. Those are so fucking annoying, dude. So this is in smoke and fire test group. Put those in the group. Okay, yeah, it's not doing it, I guess. Okay. So, right? Okay. Structured file like JSON or YAML or what? No. So here's, I was actually just thinking about this randomly this morning. Here's the thing, okay? And I've talked about this before, but it's been a while since I talked about it. Everybody thinks JSON or whatever is so great because the code handles the parsing for you, and parsing is so hard or whatever. And it's like, A, parsing is not actually hard, especially if it's a binary file format. It's very simple. But B, the problem is parsing is like at least two different things, right? It's reading the primitive types, right? Like the numbers and strings and whatever's in the file, right? That's one part of parsing. But the other part of parsing is making sure that what's in the file is what you expect to be in the file, and knowing where the things are, and putting the data that you want in the correct place that you want it, right? And the problem with stuff like JSON is it doesn't really do this second part, right? Because the JSON file could have anything, right? And so when you have your own format, you will end up doing that validation when you load the file. And then from then on, there's no uncertainty or ambiguity about what data is where. You know everything exists, you know everything is good, right? If you like loaded some JSON into some tree, you still have no idea what's in there. So what you end up, I mean, if you're disciplined and you've done this where you do your own formats and you know how clean it should be, then you do a validation step and you copy the data out or you point to it or something so that you don't have to random access the JSON all the time. But the fail case is to random access the JSON data all the time because that's what's easy, right? And so that's what people do. And so A, it's much slower, and B, like at runtime, not even at load time, but at runtime, it's much slower because you've got all this like weird tree ass data all over the place. But secondly, you still don't know what's in there, and you're like dynamically accessing it all the time from your program. And so you've moved this frontier of uncertainty from merely the loading time into all of your program. And now, like all the time, anytime you do an operation that reads the JSON stuff, you have to check to see if the thing that you're looking for is there. And what do you do if it's not? Oh, that's a weird error. I guess we'll just drop that error on the floor, just like we do with all error reporting in modern software, right? So it's really not very good the way people do these things. And again, with some discipline, you can avoid falling into the deepest part of that trap, but most people don't. You always thought that versioning of serialized data is a fairly hard problem. No. Um, it's only really hard if you want forward compatibility, and even then, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. But again, JSON doesn't solve that problem for you. This is what happens in programming. People say stuff like this. I thought I thought versioning of serialized data is a hard problem. Okay, but like JSON doesn't solve that for you, right? It'll, if for some reason they change the way strings are stored or whatever, then your loading code will get that update, but they're never going to change the way strings are stored in JSON or whatever, right? Except for maybe very minor tweaks. No, but your, again, the whole thing I was saying about validation not happening is the biggest part of versioning. And it doesn't do that for you at all. So if you want to do versioning in a JSON file of like, here's what's supposed to be here, and based on the version, I know what to look for, and all this, you have to write that yourself anyway. right? So like if I'm storing an entity in a JSON, let's make it very concrete. If I'm storing an entity in a JSON file, there's going to be fields for like, here's the type of the entity, here's the serial number of it in the system. Here's the names and values is stored in all the fields of the entity, right? Here's like the texture map, and here's the position coordinates, and all these things, okay? If I add a field to the entity, but it's only there in entity version 37 and later, JSON doesn't know anything about that at all. You have to do it yourself anyway. So like these arguments about like, oh, you should use this serialization system because blah 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 are like, they're deeply incorrect arguments most of the time. One major thing you're forgetting is JSON is human readable via text editor. No, I'm not forgetting that at all. Our entity format is human readable via text editor, and it's more readable because it's not so full of crap. I mean, JSON isn't the worst, right? XML is the absolute worst. But like, look, dude. Oh no. Hey, I'll show you exactly. Let me make this very concrete for you. All right. We're in the overworld. All right. Here's the character 574360, right? So I can go to Sokoban, run tree, data, levels, overworlds, and I can go to 574360. All right. And then I can drag this over here, and that's my entity. In text format. We also have a binary format that we use when we ship the game. Okay. This is tremendously more readable. It's also faster to load. And it has bonuses like floating point values will never diverge because we store the hex float. JSON is fine for prototyping. I mean, maybe, but like once you've written this code once, it's easy. Yeah, there's various things. So in fact, this has a whole layer of extra stuff. So when you see a star here, it means that this value has changed from the default value and will be loaded. If there's no star, it means that it's the default value. And so we actually just throw away these lines and we use the default value for the entity. And what that means is even if you've got entities serialized out, you can change the default value of a field and it'll take effect in all entities if you desire that. All right. So it's actually a very expressive, but also very specific file format. Or expressive is the wrong word, but it's very good for how tight and specific it is. And then we have a binary format of this as well, where we pack a bunch of them together. Is there hierarchical one? In our we have limited hierarchies in entities. Actually, this is actually hierarchical, but these are all empty strings, so you don't see it. But this is an array of 12 strings, right? And so forth. But the thing is, if you start getting totally wackadoodle about hierarchical data, it starts to become harder to manage, and you don't necessarily want that in an entity system internally to your game. So that's a whole different question. Of a semicolon prefix lines comments. Those are just to help make it readable. So those are the names of the entity fields, right? So if I want to go look for the orientation or the position or whatever, right? I just look for that name. But the system doesn't read the name. You could if you were like doing extra validation, but we don't. We actually skip the name because the system knows uh, what fields are in what order based on the version number, which is this one, right? So it just, it ignores, basically when it sees a semicolon, it goes to the next line when it's loading. But we can use that to know what the hell these fields are. Is this like level save data? This is, I literally showed you. That's this character in the world. So this is not the campaign state. This is the source data for the level. All right. The campaign state uh, is stored differently because we're saving a giant undo stack and we're saving diffs of entities as opposed to whole entities. Because if you save if you save whole entities, your save data is a lot bigger, right? Just got here. Oh, okay. That is the nature of Twitch chat. Do you save a manifest per version number, or how do you know what fields exist in what order? So I got to go in a couple minutes, so I can't go into too much. But we have these version stamps on members, right? And then based on this, so the current version is 12, right? If you load and you say v9, if you load a file and it's like, oh, this is a group entity, but it's version 9, then you know these, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there, that's there. Oh, that's not there. Skip that one. That's there, that's there. And then the same, you know, sometimes, let me look for some. So this field was only active between versions 12 and 14. So if you're version 17, you skip this one, right? It's very simple. Now, what that means, though, is you do have to keep this field around, or that's why it's marked deprecated, because as long as you think you're going to load something that might be between version 12 and 14, you need to know that this was there. And so we just keep that around because it's the most economical way of doing that. But most of the churn on these fields happens before you ship the game while you're developing, right? So when we ship the game, we just say, look, make sure everything's up to the latest version number, and then we can just delete all of these, right? This one as well. Is this forward compatible? No. That's the one thing that I don't do with this. Because if you saw version 21, with this system, you have no idea. It could be anywhere in here, right? So forward compatibility was just never really important for me, so we just never did it. How do you automatically calculate bounding, radius, and center for meshes? Well, I actually don't remember. I mean, we're not super worried about our bounding spheres being minimal, so we might just take the bounding box and then, find the point in the middle and use that as the center of the sphere or something. Like that's the lazy way to do it, right? But yeah, I don't remember. Bounding spheres are not mega important for us. So, we just need it as a quick reject when doing various things. All right, I got to go. I have a meeting in 2 minutes. Thanks for coming to my early stream. Let's see if we can raid someone in 2 minutes. Who can we raid in 2 minutes? We could do Lanalux. Work on OBS Core or Dissolve plugin. That could be. Dude, what is with the furries? There's so many furries now. Look at all these furries. Twitch didn't used to be all furries. I don't know. I gotta go really fast. We'll pick this guy. See you later.